The Legions of Athena. Chapter 37. Achilles awoke on a mat on a hard metal floor and sat up, his body aching and exhausted, yet mostly unburied, thanks to the black armor which he still wore. The first thing he noticed was that he was moving, and looked out to find that he was traveling on one of the highways leading away from Athens. He seemed to be in the back of a large truck which was part of a convoy of similar 18-wheelers and many other vehicles racing away from the city. The inside of the container he was in was not empty. On one side there was the large head of the mecha dog Argo, and on top of it a polecat sat licking his paw. Near that, the broken pieces of his Terra shield's remains. There were a few more people around him, mostly Minervian soldiers. Some lay unconscious on mats just like him, while others were huddled together in a corner, all of them injured. Right beside him, resting upright against the wall with a broken leg and his entire torso being held together by bandages, was Odysseus. "Awake at last," said Odysseus, without a trace of his usual optimism. "What happened?" Achilles asked. "What do you think happened?" "We had our behinds handed to us by Hercules. Would have bled out if that polecat hadn't bought us help. I meant with a war." Odysseus looked out the window at the passing fields. Then with a deep breath he said, "We lost, quite spectacularly, I might add. Minerva's army has been reduced to meager thousands. 6 out of the 8 legion commanders are dead, including Icarus, not to mention the countless officers under them. Our champion lies in a nearby truck battling death. Athena lost the battle against the war god and has been captured, and the once great capital city of Athens has been reduced to ashes." Achilles processed the information. They had been annihilated, and with Athena captured, there was not even hope for a counteroffensive. All they could do was run. Achilles wanted to stand only to remember that his left leg had been reduced to a stump again. "What about Maximus and the others?" he inquired. "Not sure, but they're not with our convoy. They did leave early, though, so there's a good chance they made it out alive," Odysseus said, and Achilles nodded in agreement. Now he could only hope that the mission he had given Max would not be too much trouble. "Did not expect to be still alive, though," Odysseus said. "Thought for sure that I would have died at the hands of Hercules, or perhaps yours." Achilles understood what it meant. It did not come to that. Before our fight could end, Hercules found a more worthy adversary. Who? Don't know. But judging from what I sensed, he was more on the Olympian level. Odysseus sighed. "I guess the silver lining in all this is that at least you're not drenched in black again," he observed. "I wouldn't be so sure, old friend," Achilles said. I felt it breathe. For a moment Odysseus displayed worry, then he calmed himself and said, "We have enough troubles at the moment, so let us handle this one when the time comes." Achilles nodded to this. He pulled out his summoning crystal and tapped it. But the armor did not disappear. Instead, the crystal vibrated and sparks began flying from it. Then it exploded, littering the floor with its tiny shards. This took the 2 Greek heroes by surprise, and Odysseus said, "It seems it does not want to be caged anymore." The Badger barreled through the Minervian roads, heading south. Night had fallen as they left the smoldering ruins of Athens far behind them. Maximus was at the wheel, and he was driving much faster than he normally did, as though trying to outrun some invisible ghost, but no one said anything. No one had spoken much since they left Athens, and Maximus was fine with that. The last thing he wanted to do right now was discuss about all that Hecate had said. Hedger was resting in one of the top bunks, still a bit shaken by the war. On the bed below him lay Thanatos, as stiff as a corpse. Mia was using whatever healing magic she knew on him, but the death god had still not regained consciousness. Hypnos was with them as well. He had not left his brother's side since the drive began. On the bed next to them was Rex, still snoring away. Hypnos had offered to wake him, but Max told to let him sleep. If he awoke now, they would have to explain everything that had happened, and Max really did not want to at the moment. Maximus may have been driving at full speed, but it was impossible to concentrate on the road. His mind kept wandering to everything he had just learned. He wasn't just an orphan anymore. He had a mother, and she was a titan. He still couldn't believe this. It made no sense to him no matter how long he thought about it. He slammed the accelerator again, hoping to outrun his thoughts. It grew darker, and Max was forced to slow down. The roads were getting worse the further they went south. Hypnos had said that he had a boat docked in one of the small fishing villages on the Minervian coast, and that's where they were heading. The plan was to use it to leave the country as fast as possible. Hedger was now fast asleep, hanging from a hook fixed on the truck ceiling. Ajax had thought of everything when he fixed up the Badger. Mia had just finished doing all she could for the death god, and now she sat beside Maximus on the passenger seat. It was obvious she had something on her mind, but she tried to keep her mouth shut. She had never been good at that. "How are you holding up?" she asked. Max sighed. "Mia, I don't think now's the best time." Mia was quiet again for about a minute before she said, "You know Achilles is going to be all right. There's no way we survived the war, and he didn't." Max did not say anything, but he nodded. "Besides, Hecate said she was rescuing more people. She would have helped Achilles and Odysseus if they were in trouble," Mia continued. "Is she really that special, this Hecate?" Max asked. "Max, Hecate is the titan of witchcraft and the very first witch in history. You could say she invented spells. She's the one who wrote the first witch's grimoire. She's probably the strongest magic user in the world," Mia said excitedly. I still can't believe we used to make fun of her back in the Ham's canteen. I should have asked for an autograph. But Mia quickly fell silent, seeing the look on Max's face. She realized he was wondering how much truth was there in the Titan's words. Hey, whatever happens, we will figure it out together, all right? Mia said seriously. Maximus noticed the look of concern in her cat-like eyes. Suddenly he felt ashamed for making her worry so much. He forced a smile and said, Yeah, all right. Mia smiled at this, which made her look even more feline. But at least she didn't seem so serious anymore. Max knew a smile suited her better. Mind if I join you two lovebirds? Hypnos asked, finally leaving his brother's side. Mia blushed furiously at these words. We are not a couple, she half shouted at the sleep god. Oh, I just assumed, my bad, Hypnos said with a laugh. How's your brother? Max asked. Well, he'll live to brood another day, but when he'll awaken from this coma, I can't say. The scythe blade Hercules ripped from his arm was no ordinary one. It was a demonic weapon, said Hypnos. Mia gasped at this, but Max remained clueless. Demonic weapons are magical objects and are tied to the user's soul, Mia explained. It creates a direct link with the user so strong that they can't even be too far away from it. Forcibly removing one that had merged with its master would usually kill a person, Mia explained. Hypnos nodded. Luckily, my brother has always been a tough nut to crack. I'm glad he'll pull through, Maximus said. It's the second time he saved us. Second? Hypnos asked. You must be mistaken. My brother's not the saving type. Maximus explained their brief encounter with Thanatos back in Vulcan City. Hypnos was genuinely surprised. And here I thought everyone who ever met him was now a corpse. Guess it's a small world after all, Hypnos said. Speaking of the world, have you decided where you're headed? Both Maximus and Mia were silent. Though Hecate made it clear they had to leave Minerva, they didn't know where to go. Until a few months back, Max hadn't even left Mars, and there was no way he could return there. The only place they could think of was Vulcan, but Ares would have the country on lockdown to prevent refugees from escaping. I'm sure you'll think of something, but for the moment, I might suggest making a petrol station our first stop, Hypnos said. He was right, they had been driving for hours, and the tank was almost empty. Luckily, they found a pump with a 24-hour mini-mart. Hypnos filled the tank while Max and Mia decided to visit the shop to grab something to eat. Maximus hadn't realized just how hungry he was until he entered the shop and saw the food. They began browsing, and soon enough, Mia picked out a couple of cans of tomato soup, while Max grabbed a large bag of chips, a bottle of cola, and a chocolate bar. That's going to be your dinner? Mia said disapprovingly. It's not like they have smoked ribs here, he said, and Mia rolled her eyes. So any idea on where we should head? She said, still looking through the shelves. Maximus didn't know where they should go next, but he did know that there was something that had to be done. Well, for starters, Achilles assigned me a mission before we left. This got Mia's attention, and Max pulled out the small metal cube and showed it to her. I've seen this before, she said, examining it. This was on Daedalus's necklace, and Max nodded. What is it? Mia asked. Not a clue, said Max. But right before Daedalus died, his last words were to destroy it. Achilles tried with his blade, but it didn't leave a scratch on it. So now we have to find a way. Mia looked uncertain, but she nodded in agreement. I think Hedger has a book on ancient artifacts on his e-reader. Maybe we can find something in there. Maximus wasn't sure they would find anything, but it was as good a place as any to start. Just don't tell anyone else about it yet. I don't want Hypnos knowing about it. You don't trust him? He's a god from the underworld, and trustworthy is not the word that comes to mind when dealing with the biggest mafia on the planet, Max said. They were about to head to the counter when Mia pulled him back and asked, Wait, do you have the rest of the necklace with you? Max wasn't sure why she asked, but he nodded and pulled out the necklace from his pocket. With the stones and the broken watch in the middle, it looked like junk. Wear it, Mia said. Why? Max asked. He still had it as a keepsake for Daedalus, but he didn't want to wear it. It looked really stupid, because those aren't just rocks, they are alchemic ruins, one of which I'm sure offers protection from sleep spells. Max's eyes widened. That would be useful, considering we're traveling with the god of sleep. But maybe you should wear it. Mia shook her head. No, in case we get double-crossed, we'll have a better chance if you're the one awake. Maximus wasn't sure, but he thought Mia had just complimented him, and that was a first. She must really believe it was for the best if she said something so drastic. Max reluctantly wore the multicolored junk necklace. They paid for their groceries to the half-asleep old satyr at the counter, and headed back to the Badger, where Hypnos was already done filling the tank. Once they were done snacking, Hypnos offered to take the wheel, and Maximus let him. Being the god of sleep, he could go for months without even a nap, it seems, a luxury Max did not have. Max thought it would be impossible to get some shut-eye with the bumpy roads and Rex's unrelenting snores, but the moment he climbed onto the top bunk, he fell straight asleep. It wasn't the peaceful, dreamless sleep he had hoped for. Instead, he now stood surrounded by darkness. Great, Maximus thought, now he shows up. How nice of you to come once everything is over, Maximus said. At first, there was silence, then the voice spoke. There were too many powers at play during the war. I did not want to risk detection. Swell. Max said. So you were right about the storm, not that it did much good in the end, not when the one who made it was the most powerful creature on Earth. As history has proven on countless occasions, it is near impossible to deny the will of Zeus, said the voice. You knew Zeus was behind all this early on, didn't you? I suspected it, the voice said, but I've learned to never believe anything with unwavering certainty. It makes one blind to the truth. And you are the living proof of that, Titanborn. What did you call me? Fate plays a strange hand, for who would have dreamed the child of Themis would survive? So it's true then? My mother really is the Titan Themis? Yes and no. What is that supposed to mean? All that talk about my lineage you always knew. I had my doubts, but now it is not important, young Titanborn, said the voice. What is important is that you have inherited the will of Themis, the will of divine justice. You are really not helping clearing things up here, Max said. Perhaps that is because I cannot explain it all myself, the voice said. But I know who can. Who? Max asked. The flame thief. And who the heck is that? Max asked, but no reply came from the darkness. He knew the voice had disappeared again. Trust the voice of the Blade Hecate had told him, not an easy task when the voice was a temperamental lunatic. Maximus stood there alone in the darkness, thinking about just how strange his life had become. But he had made a promise, so he would face it all no matter how bizarre it got, so that he could be stronger, strong enough to protect everyone close to him. For that he could no longer be just an orphan, soldier, or scavenger. He would have to become, as the voice said, the Titanborn. This has been a chapter from Book 2 of the new World Odyssey Series, The Legions of Athena. Links to the books in the bio. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. See you in the next chapter.